So, I think we should hopefully be live in a second. YouTube is still kind of lagging behind a bit. Okay, here we are. We are still waiting for Steam to pick up on the stream, but YouTube is going, and I hope that people are joining to chat to us.
Cool. Awesome. Then, hi people that are joining to chat with us. I guess we should introduce ourselves.
Yes. I'll introduce myself first. I am Rebecca. I work for Mixtvision, the publisher of Interrogation. And I will introduce you as well, Andre, because this time, unfortunately, Andre is a bit sick, and so he will be a bit quieter. So I get lots of chances to talk. But Andre is one of the developers of Interrogation, part of Critique Gaming, and joining us to give you a little insight into the game. And yeah, thank you for joining us, even though your throat hurts. I really appreciate that. So, last time we played through the first case in Interrogation and kind of like showed the interrogation system a bit more and talked about how to find out crucial information and how the dialogue system works. And I promised that we were going to look at some other stuff because we solved the case, but of course the game was not over. And after solving the case and catching the criminal, there's lots of other stuff to do. So today we're going to jump back into the case again to show you a different route that you can take, and then show you what comes after you're finished with the interrogation. All the exciting police work that's coming. So let's see. Yep. So this is the beginning of the first case again. To quickly sum it up, this is Munch. Munch has a criminal past and has been caught breaking into a apartment. This is Daryl Peterson. He's the husband of a now deceased woman, and he and his wife were living in the apartment. And he has been found tied to a chair while his wife was shot in the back. And he was surprisingly calm. So we're kind of like trying to figure out what happened there.
The two are claiming different stories.
Yes.
Daryl is saying that Munch killed his wife in the middle of a burglary, whilst Munch is saying that though he confessed to kind of breaking and entering and stealing some small objects, he said that he didn't even see Mrs. Peterson, yet alone kill her. And kind of our purpose in this kind of first interrogation of the game is to make the whole kind of process of the police be much, much easier by getting a confession from one of the two. So that this doesn't have to go to trial and all that complicated thing. We need to try to use our interrogation magic to get the confession from one of the two.
Yeah, it's really important that we get a confession because there's only circumstantial evidence. So we have no real proof that we do have proof that Munch stole something, but no proof for the murder. So we really need one of them to confess. And I mentioned last time that I had trouble with this case when playing for the first time. Because even though it's the start of the game, it's not all that simple, right? They're telling different stories and it can be hard to find out what happened. So let's just jump right in. I first want to ask Mr. Cox a little bit about himself. Last time you had the opportunity to hear Andre and me kind of read out everything. I will sum up what they're saying this time because, having a sore throat really does not help your voice acting.
Yes, it doesn't.
Oh, hello, Frisky. Nice to have you here. So let's ask him where he's from. Is he from the city? Yes, he is here, and he doesn't really have a high opinion of the city. Does he have work? Uh, Not really. Friends or family? Yes, he has a cousin. Um, well then, maybe we should check that cousin out and ask about what he knows about this whole thing. But he says we have to leave him alone. Okay, so ask him about his past crimes. What made him turn to crime? And he's getting a bit nervous here because his pulse is going up. And last time we talked about these two gauges here, the pulse showing you how nervous the suspect is, and this is the pupil dilation, which shows you how open the suspect is to like kind of your tactics, like if they're feeling comfortable with you, if they're feeling relaxed. So basically, it's if he's getting more nervous, it's unlikely that he's getting more
Mm-hmm.
that he will be more open.
Yeah. And in even though we say that interrogation is a kind of conversational puzzle game, uh, to kind of highlight the fact that there is gameplay in this dialogue. Uh, this doesn't mean that as in kind of traditional puzzles, there's only one way of solving it. There are multiple ways in which you can approach each interrogation, and you need to figure out the one that kind of you find most intuitive. And last time, I guess we tried out how it is to try to kind of be nice to both of them and trying to get close to them, and we were successful by the end of it. And maybe today, Rebecca, we may try some other option.
So we are a bad cop this time. Yeah, last time we solved this case by the book, just we were really understanding and nice to everyone, even though I do have a particular disliking to one of those characters. Um, and yeah, now I will go for making them nervous and like really putting the pressure on them, because it leads us to what we're showing today. Because those of you who joined last time will have seen it in the tutorial, but those of you who are joining for the first time are probably in for a bit of a surprise with this. So, yeah, I asked him about his past crimes and nothing there really. So let's ask him what exactly happened. Why he chose this house to climb into. Were the lights on? And he says he wouldn't go in if the lights were on. And did he break the window? And he's getting super nervous because I'm like going straight for the questions where I don't seem very sympathetic to his situation, right? So he broke no windows. Did he know there were people inside? He did not know, but why did he go in? He says he didn't go in. So when did he run away? When he saw people.
And here, kind of, you can see how Munch, even though he knows that he has confessed to doing the burglary, he's he had to deal with the police before, so he has kind of an almost automated instinct of denying things. And sometimes you can even confront him with the fact that he's denying things that he already said that he did, which in those moments of realization, it's your choice how you want to instrumentalize this. Do you want to show him your understanding and score some good guy points with him, or more rather to use this to apply even more pressure?
Yeah, this is why it's very important to read the files that you get in the beginning, because it summarizes the background story and summarizes what happened. So you would know that he's lying when he says he ran away straight away, because he was caught with stolen goods. We are already getting our first hashtag here. Hashtag justice to Munch. Yeah, we're a policeman, right? And while we are putting on pressure, I'm sure we will lead him to justice. So let's talk about the murder. The gun was found near the fire escape that he used. And Pulse is going up again. Munch, this is not good. He must have a reason to be nervous, so how can I know it's not his gun? What about the whole innocent until proven guilty thing? Yes. What about that?
Yeah. In the previous sentence about innocent proven guilty, you can see one of the little ways in which we attempt to make written dialogue be more expressive. When you're writing, you don't have kind of, it's very hard to send off voice inflections and things like that. But we can do things like having little whatchamacallit, uh, quote marks to symbolize exactly, to more clearly illustrate how uh, each suspect is actually saying those lines.
Yeah, it's kind of almost like it reminds me of a comic book, personally, because it's like they also have like these little boxes to kind of like explain what's happening.
Yeah, well, comic books are certainly a major source of inspiration for a significant part of the art style. Yeah.
So I'm kind of trying to press him about the murder, and he says, of course he did not do it. But I say I don't believe him. And we can see like now, because I've been really mean to him, he's very closed off and he's very nervous. So let's talk to the husband for a moment and kind of try to get his side of the story. Talk about him and kind of ask him about how he's doing. And he's very calm and relaxed, but as you do when your wife was just shot. So let's try to be mean to him again. Last time I messed up because I actually had a mean question and tried to be nice, and Cookie then, like in the chat, somebody requested that we choose the mean question, but because I had already like backed out of the dialogue, I had missed my chance, which was really sad. So maybe we can get to the same point again. It's not that easy for me because these dialogues, they are really complex and you have a lot of choices.
Yeah,
And
well, we've also made them complex so that there's a certain degree of replayability. Uh, Everything is written by hand. It's not randomized or anything, or procedurally generated. You can't really, or with modern technology, even with modern technology, we can't really do truly meaningful and interesting dialogue in any automated sense. So we write them by hand. But we try to make them complex enough so that even if you revisit them a third or a fourth time, might recognize parts of them, but you won't be able to truly remember them. And so, just like in, I don't know, most action games, even though you remember roughly how each stage looks like or each platforming stage looks like, you will still need to kind of think and act deliberately each time. So kind of that's how we're. This is one of the reasons why they're so complex, so that we do provide some replayability to the game.
yeah, I mentioned this last time, but I've seen this first case a lot because when I'm at events, this is when Interrogation is at events, this is what we show. And I still am surprised of the different ways that people approach this and that people go through it and regularly see like new things that I haven't seen before and like a new approach. And it's really interesting also like asking people who do you think did it, because some of them really early on have a very strong opinion on who did what. And um, yeah. So I'm kind of trying to find out more about his wife and him. what's happening. And like, you can see here that this is already like quite a lot of things that I can ask, and everything leads to different answers to maybe follow-up questions. And we also already have one of our yellow questions done here. The white questions are questions that you have unlocked from the beginning. The yellow questions are questions that you get when you get additional information. For example, here it says Munch claims he does not own a gun, because in the just now I asked Munch about the gun and he said he does not own one. So I can now confront the husband with this information. How would he shoot the wife if he does not own a gun? So I can kind of like try to uh, play them against each other with what they're saying and try to use new information.
And now he tells us that maybe Munch stole his gun. So now Daryl gives us a piece of information that we did not know in the beginning, that he also owns a gun. And whenever players get such an information, they will need to carefully think how to steer the conversation towards this new piece of information. Where will they find contextually a way to use it? And here you find it here's by saying, you said you own a gun, you're not registered as a gun owner. So in this case, it being one of the first interrogations, we made most of the kind of more important questions be easily findable. But in other interrogations, players will have to be much more deliberate in trying to find how to steer the conversation towards the topics that they find important at a particular moment.
Yeah, and you have to kind of remember what you talked about and where it would fit in. Because I think these dialogues are very complex. They open up a lot, and even this first one is already with just two people, and being the first case, it's already quite a huge dialogue tree that we can explore.
Yeah.
So he says the lights were on, and we also asked Munch about the lights, and so we already maybe know something about that.
I think we once made a statistic, and on average, our characters, uh, each dialogue tree holds about 100 options, with some characters having more than 100, or 150, or even 200 in the most extreme cases. There are a few that are kind of smaller, but yeah, it's quite elaborate and has a lot of the dialogue tree has a lot of depth.
Yeah, there's a lot of information to sift through, like as a police person, as you said so correctly in the chat. It's not easy to like get this much info about things and figure out what really happened.
Yep.
So he says he was home. So let's go back to Munch, because this seems very strange. Did he feel threatened? No, but he feels not by the couple, but he feels threatened by me if you're looking at his pulse. So I'm kind of trying to put pressure on him. But he has experience with this, right? He will not just like break under a bit of mean questions. So I'm not really getting anywhere here. But we do have options that we kind of wanted to show off today. And it's actually what I had to resort to when I first played this. Because when I first played it, I knew I had a very, very strong hunch who did it. But they weren't giving me anything. So In the Police Academy tutorial that we now skip today, we are told about the recorder that is, of course, running. The recording device. Oh, it's not a recorder, I'm sorry, it's the recording device that's running.
Isn't it a tape recorder?
Tape
I think,
recorder? Yeah.
yeah, maybe I think that's the right word for
Yeah,
it.
in German it's called recorder, but in English that's like a flute thing, so I'm like, oh, god damn it. But yeah, anyways, the tape recorder, we can turn it off, which gives us more options. And you can see, like, now the dialogue has disappeared because we're not questioning the suspect right now. We're using some different methods. And we have, like, highlighted in red 3 options that we can go for. We can address Munch directly. We can ask him whether he would want to tell the wall something. Or we can also look in this little drawer here and find work utensils, I'd say.
Yeah.
So Corey just asked whether this game takes place in the past. No, actually not. It's even though the art style with the black and white can sometimes seem like it might be in the past, it's actually current time.
Mm, uh, so, to be most specific, it's neither in the past, nor in the present, nor in the future. It's so it hap it happens in a kind of indiscrete or not super specific moment. So you will find, for example, all sorts of technology, both cassette recorders, but also people using kind of the internet and chat rooms. I think it's closest to the 90s. Uh, and we, though we wanted kind of the 90s aesthetic and vibe in most things to kind of deliver the noir art style, which helps in amplifying the story. We also wanted to include, let's say, the effects of modern technology, things like the internet, even social media, inside the game. So we kind of decided why, um, given that it does not aid the story in any way, why be constricted to a particular year in the kind of modern or in um, the actual reality? This is an alternate reality, and we don't know exactly which year it is.
Yeah, but I think it's also like timeless by not like dating it exactly. Because
Exactly.
have we already reached all the dates in Back to the Future? No, but we got to some of them, and
Yeah,
it's a bit strange to kind of like have a specific date and then it's
yeah,
past it and it kind of changes your outlook on
yeah.
it.
Yeah, well, that's why we don't even, for example, give a particular name to the city you are in, because we don't necessarily want to say this is this particular city that has kind of some real life particularities that then people can look up. This is a modern urban environment, a city in kind of North America, and that's kind of the only things that we give to players for them to know, because it's not relevant exactly. It could be any city, honestly, and the story would be just as valid. Um, yeah,
Yeah, well, depending who you ask, because Munch said that the city is not his favorite. He had quite some words for it. So depending who you ask, maybe the city is a great city, maybe not. So this
well,
also applies to a lot of places.
yeah, um, and I think we should kind of maybe go back to
Yes,
to
yes,
the
let's go back.
initial
Uh,
topic.
so yeah, we just turned off the tape recorder and now have different options. I will just go for the direct approach and kind of like rough Munch up a little bit.
Yeah. So we give we what we try to do with this is to in the game to give players all the realistic options that detective actually has. Um, in kind of today's world, there are uses, moments in which the police use things like stopping recordings and then claiming technical difficulties to be able to rough up suspects, even if it's not exactly kind of procedural. And through this, we want to a certain extent, in the game, showcase both the temptation to make this kind of choice, how it's so much easier than trying through words to actually frighten somebody. But later on in the game, and that's something we won't spoil, we also showcase what are all the consequences, like the realistic consequences to using kind of any kind of extrajudicial force.
Yeah, so because um, right now I turned the recorder off, punched Munch basically, and when I grabbed him by his collar and like ripped him up to his feet, uh, and turned the recorder back on. So right now it's basically a he said she said situation, and of course, who would believe a criminal like Munch over a upstanding police detective like
Or
us? So, but still like a gap in the recording, so there's still some suspicion, and suspicion builds up, right? Because now I might be able to talk my way out of it. We don't know yet because nothing has happened yet. The interrogation isn't over. Nobody has come in. But if that adds up and if there's multiple instances, this might also change. So it's I think it's also really interesting because it's not like, okay, well, you punched him, nothing happens, or you punched him and now you lose because you are a bad cop. But it's like consequences sometimes take time to happen, and just like in the real world. And I don't know. Like used violence now, and I don't know what's going to happen. Nobody told me. So
no,
it's like, and I
because
think that's really interesting and also realistic, right?
yeah, so exactly as you said, in real life, you do make actions, and you don't know the exact consequences of these actions, but you can use kind of your intuition to try to figure out what will be the kind of both legal, but also um, in terms of public perception, outcomes of your actions. And this is the case throughout interrogation. We never tell players specifically what's going to happen, we show them. We give them options everywhere, and then we showcase the consequences. And sometimes we had kind of testers that were asking us, why don't we you tell us more specifically why did something happen or what's going to happen? And our answer all the time was uh, because we want players to be actively intellectually engaged in the game whenever they make a choice, for them to really consider it and not just look at a micro list of kind of mechanical pluses and minuses and then trying to min max it, because that's not how life works. You don't know from the get go that if you do something, you're gonna upset the city hall by an increment of X%, and can. So you need to take kind of make an educated guess, not a mathematical calculation.
This is actually also why I'm super scared, like to demo the game like this and like play while not necessarily paying full attention, because I'm extremely scared that I will just mess up.
Well, don't worry, we just track everything that you do. Uh,
Yeah, it's just on the internet, right? Nobody will know that I
no, no,
failed.
yeah, and also one thing is that we especially in deciding what will be the ending of the game, we literally do track everything, every little kind of question that somebody is making, any strategic decision that they're taking, even outside of interrogations. We are tracking them, and this will impact to a certain extent how the game ends. Which means that even trying, in a second or third playthrough to get to a particular ending, it might be difficult.
So now I'm just ruining the game for myself, like by streaming it and not paying attention. Ruining my save file. So...
What did you just find out? What stage you in, Rebecca? Because honestly, I wasn't. I was more rather talking to you.
Yeah, a
Uh,
panicked
I-
stage. Because I think I'm fast approaching a very difficult situation to get out of because I have very little info. I
well,
Munch, even though I was quite aggressive in my questioning, literally, is still insisting that he did not do anything, and I will
okay.
probably not get much out of him.
Okay, can you go back to Daryl?
So,
Maybe try
yeah.
to change the topic with him.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
I wanted to ask him some more about the burglary to kind of find out what happened there exactly when he pulled out the gun, and kind of like ask him more about this.
Okay. So, did you confront him about the gun not being registered?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I confronted him. But I did not fully confront. I just
Yes.
asked him why he didn't report it. Yes. So he
Yeah,
did not use the
sometimes
gun.
every little detail may be instrumentalized, and you need to try it out. You don't know how suspects will react to things.
And he's okay right now. He's kind of open. He's not too nervous. Quite cool.
No, but at the same time, he is kind of talking to you.
Yeah.
He's not blocking off. Um,
I did not approach him aggressively yet. So in the first time I played this, I actually used violence on Daryl Peterson because throughout my questioning, I was 100% sure that he did it, but I could not get him to admit it. So I was just like, okay, listen here. I'm turning this tape recorder off, and we're going to talk human to human, and not law-abiding police person to suspect. Because I was so sure he did it, and I was like, I want to get you for this, because he shot his wife in the back, and he would not confess it. And I couldn't like let him pin it on Munch, because I actually like Munch. So I don't know why I picked him to demonstrate the violence aspect of the interrogations, but I guess
yeah.
I shouldn't have a favorite. So now we are talking about why he said that he would have used a gun on the burglar, which is like he wanted to shoot the burglar, but he didn't get to his gun. So this is
Yes.
quite extreme. And this is kind of like we also got to this point last time, because our dear Mr. Peterson, with like his nice suit and his combed hair, who kind of looks very different from Munch, right? He had a little dirty secret. So that we find out about now, and this kind of like throws us into the whole rest of the game. But maybe we should skip ahead a bit and go to the end of the case, because we prepared something, because we played this case in the first stream. I have to quickly switch save files for that. Because with the help of magic, of the magic of save files, I now know that he did it, because in the last stream we actually convicted him. Because there's also another part that we wanted to show you, that we kind of hinted at a bit when talking about the enhanced interrogation techniques as well. So, and like in the beginning, we said that just the interrogation is not everything. So now we're done with the questioning. We know who did it. We know Peterson did it. And we're in the office of our boss. So he said, "Good work in there. I have something important I need to discuss with you. But before that, I need you to finish up the press release we're putting out about this case. Help them word it. Then come see me." So you're not done just because you caught the suspect, or the criminal. Of course, you have to. Police has to tell the press what happened and has to release a press release, and you have to help them fill it out. So you have these blanks here, and as the little tooltip is telling me, I can click to kind of like see what I can write. So I have multiple options there as well. So I will read out the press release and we can fill it out together. The STPD press release. The investigation involving the murder of Heather Peterson was concluded today, which resulted in the arrest of Daryl Peterson, 42, and Jerry Cox, 23. Jerry Cox is Munch. All evidence pertaining to the case has been directed to the relevant authorities with the full cooperation and counsel of the STPD prosecutor counselor. And now I have the gap that I filled out with: they will be treated following judicial procedure and their cases will be taken to criminal court. But if I don't want to talk about procedure, I can also say the criminals have been incarcerated. So these are the two options that I have up here.
Yeah, and players will need to think what are the consequences of different phrasings, of spinning the story in different ways. This will be a press release that will be picked up by the press and then printed, and you will need to think how different entities will kind of form an opinion about you based on what you tell them, how you spin it, how you phrase things. And you need to think which entities will care about this, about what you say in a press release.
Yeah, because it is public, so a lot of different people will read it. And obviously saying the criminals have been incarcerated is very different than saying that they will be treated following judicial procedure.
Yes, one of them is certainly much more kind of specific and legal and legally accurate, whilst the other one is more juicy. So you need to think who prefers to have a juicy story, who prefers to have kind of legal accuracy, who prefers other things. Sometimes you have more than two options.
Yeah. So, and also like regular, and it's not just the press who might be interested in like a super juicy wording and like all these little dirty details, but it's also like it's being released to the public, so regular civilians like you or me could pick this up and read it. Mm-hmm. So it will also influence a lot about what regular people think. Like if you really put out a press release and are like, yeah, well, there's a mass murderer running wild, this will obviously change what the public thinks, how safe they feel, and their trust in the police. Like if you say, yeah, well, didn't figure out that who did it, and like, yeah, we couldn't find the real. Oh my god, my English is kind of broken today.
It's late, don't worry.
The real offender, then they will obviously feel unsafe. And here for Daryl Peterson, who we found out killed his wife, we can also find different descriptions. We can say he's the main suspect, we can say he's the victim's husband, and we can say that he was not initially a suspect. So kind of, I think, like, the not initially a suspect, from my feeling, would be one of those options that will probably not make you seem like the most competent person. If you're saying, like, well, it was a complete surprise. He was one of two persons at the crime scene. We would have never suspected he could have done it.
Well, I know exactly what are the effects, but I won't tell.
Yeah. So I will say he was the victim's husband. A nice emotional connection, right? So kind of, it makes him seem even worse. Like, as well, because he confessed to the murder during questioning. Although he initially attempted to hide his involvement by staging a violent robbery, evidence found at the scene contradicted parts of his description of the event. The police will be advancing charges of voluntary manslaughter or first-degree murder.
Yeah, honestly, uh, it, this is one of the moments where we know that some players may not know initially what these mean, but honestly, Wikipedia is very close nowadays. So we have no shame in having our players have to alt tab and Wikipedia some terms. Uh, it's honestly, whenever we games actually meaningfully use terms from reality, I personally get quite excited.
Yeah, you learn new things by
Yeah.
because if I Google manslaughter, I will find out new things about that. I think I know the difference. Not sure if I could like actually describe it in legally correct terms, but I think I know the distinction between the two. Because murder is planned and manslaughter is kind of like
Yeah.
in the moment.
Yeah,
So
first degree murder is willful and premeditated with malice aforethought, whilst voluntary manslaughter, a passion crime, would be more rather seen as a voluntary manslaughter. If it's something that kind of it was because of the heat of the moment, not because you kind of planned beforehand. There's a main difference.
yeah, I like that your description of murder did uh, not sound like you researched this at all. Yeah, like you probably haven't looked at the legal definition with all these like nice and terms that I already forgot. Again,
Yeah.
um, Corey asked whether there's a prosecutor that we have to deal with. So I think the question is kind of like, are we going to go into court and attend
So
the procedure there?
Though there are moments in the game in which you do interact with other authorities, for example, even with the district attorney, uh, more or less directly. However, we do not have you never go to court because to a certain extent, though the game is a police procedural, uh, it's not this is not the main topic of the game, and as kind of is hinted in this first interrogation, it will not be the game is not just a sequence of different cases of murder mysteries, but more rather uh, focuses on this liberation front and the fight against it, which means that there will be rather few instances in which you need to convict people, and most of the time it will be about, well, preventing uh, violence.
Yeah, when I quit the first case and jumped into this press release part, um, Daryl Peterson was about to tell us about this chat room that he's in, and we find out that in this chat room there's a secret room with a password, and the Liberation Front meets there, and they are kind of like Daryl was hoping to shoot a burglar because he thinks that like these criminals don't deserve to live and that the city needs to be cleansed and stuff, and like the Liberation Front kind of shares these extreme views. So they might not be on the same side of the law as we are as a police person. So this kind of like kicks off the whole story. We showed it last time, so if you're interested, you can still find the video on YouTube, on our channel, um, and check that out. And you will also get the pleasure of hearing our lovely, lovely voice acting. So let's
Yeah.
finish this press release up, right? Due to the confession, the manslaughter charges against Jerry Cox have been dropped, and he will only face prosecution for breaking and entering and theft. His involvement in creating the circumstances for the murder to happen will be investigated further. Or we can say evidence suggests he had no violent intent and no connection to the murder. So it kind of also implies different behavior in our department and what we will continue to do. So I like him. and so I will say that evidence suggests he had no violent intent. And then send it off. Oh, yeah. Uh, and now, because we're at the very beginning of the game, we also get to pick an old memory. And these kind of serve as like, because they're memories from of us, they serve as our skills, what we can do.
Yeah, it's honestly it's a pretty standard talent tree.
Yeah.
Uh, it's packaged. The memory tag fits the noir aesthetic, but they're skill trees so that we allow players to a certain extent customize the way they want to play.
Yeah.
Uh,
My favorite one is the speed demon, which means that you have more time in interrogations, because as we mentioned last time, this interrogation, this first one, is not under time pressure, but in the future you will be under time pressure, and it will get hard to finish interrogations on time. So Speed Demon gets you more time to interrogate, but you cannot look at the files during the interrogation. And I was like, yes, this is exactly how I feel. I want to do this. I will select this as well now.
but you could showcase some of the others maybe as well, because
Yes. Well, there we could showcase everything. Or is there a specific one that you want to see?
no, not particular.
Known pacifist is kind of not what we've just done. Because known pacifist means that you always follow procedure and are known for it. Subjects have more empathy towards you, so like they are more open and will probably be honest. But you have trouble producing fear and cannot use enhanced interrogation. So this completely locks you out of violence. So like if I chose this when I first played the game and had it for the first case, uh, I would have been very, very fucked. And you can also have the Scholar of Ideology memory, where you have studied the Liberation Front's ideology, like this terrorist group that you're persecuting, and may display sympathy during interrogations for their cause. So you can kind of like try to empathize more with them and try to get on their good side during an interrogation and find out more that way. So let's kind of jump forward in time again, because now we wrote the press release, right, and we sent it out, and it will obviously have some kind of effect. And to see that, we have to jump forward a bit and go to our office, where we now have reports of what happened. This left one you can ignore for the moment, because this is something we will talk about in the future. But mission report kind of implies some things, so look forward to that. But what we are interested in for now is the PR report.
Yeah, you can hit the X so that we can
Yeah.
drop them on the page and then take them on. It's fine.
Yes.
Yeah, so the PR report is something that you receive each time you visit the office, and there are ways to kind of improve how much information it gives you, but it tells you usually what is your reputation in front of the most important stakeholders, and everything you do from the kind of the press releases to some of the actions uh, in interrogations and the rumors that they create, and also what you do, anything else that you do will impact your reputation, and uh, it's important to try to keep a good reputation with the most important stakeholders, because just like in real life, it's not only about doing your job right, but it's about others perceiving that you do your job right. And it's useless if you have results whilst people believe that you're failing.
Uh, yeah, you kind of summed it up really well. And I think it's also really interesting because this is kind of giving you a glimpse, and it's what you get, right? You get glimpses into the opinions of others, into the public opinion, into the opinion of press, but you can influence it in some ways. For example, as we explained with the press report, but you will not get something like, okay, if you select this and this option, you will get +3 approval by politicians.
Yeah,
So just like in real life, you have to kind of try to figure out what everyone wants and how to make everyone happy, which is not necessarily possible because you oftentimes can't make everyone happy, and kind of like try to find a middle ground to navigate this landscape. Because if the authorities don't approve, uh, like they control your funding, it might change everything about your job.
yeah.
If the
Uh,
public doesn't improve, this will also probably not make your boss happy. So everything's super interconnected, and you have to take a lot into consideration when, especially when like addressing the public.
yeah. So kind of just as I guess we're now hinting at it, and we've also said in the previous stream, the game is more than just interrogations. It follows a larger story that you're influencing at every point, and the larger police investigation and campaign against this liberation front. Uh, and we give players kind of agency over how they want to manage this, and especially how they want to present their efforts to others. And with agency also comes risk. Players can both succeed and get rewards, those kind of little icons that were in the press release, but also they can fail and can kind of receive negative statuses, or even kind of fail completely, get fired, or other negative consequences because of their actions.
And I think that's what makes well. I'm super panicked, as I said, because I'm very afraid of going game over on stream when not paying close attention. But I think that's what makes it so interesting, because in a lot of games, like, you can quite directly tell, okay, I need to do this and this, and then I will get a good result, and if I do that, people will not like me, and this will influence exactly these three things.
Yeah.
And you, like, for example, in Fable, not that it's a bad thing. I think I also like it, and I tend to Google a lot of results in a lot of RPGs, because I know that if I give item XY to person Z, I might get like a different item or a different weapon, and so I do Google results as well. But I think that it changes the way you interact with the system. It starts being a min-maxing thing, and like in interrogation, having so many options with really no super clear result. You will know when it hits you, but when you select the option, you have to kind of guess at the result. I think it makes it very realistic and more impactful. Be-
Yeah, and obviously, so I have no doubt that there will be walkthroughs that will appear
yes.
on the internet. Honestly, if you want to play with the walkthrough, and that's the best, that's kind of the kind of experience you want to have, it's not like we can stop you. But certainly, the game is made so that it's best experienced with only the information that we give you, and because it's carefully selected so that it does create a certain level of intellectual engagement, so that you constantly think, what are the consequences of your actions. I guess that's kind of the main philosophy in designing this game. Was we give you options, show you the consequences to your decisions, uh, after you've taken a decision. Uh, you don't have any kind of special superpower to predict things other than your own personal intuition as a player.
Yeah, so Corey asked, is losing interesting? And I think, especially in this game, it is, because it kind of it puts a lot of the things that you do in context. So, for example, when I played the first case, I was completely sure that the husband did it. He was not giving me anything, so I resorted to violence. It was no easy decision because I do tend to kind of play a good person because I feel much better if I'm kind to people. And I have a very hard time using violence, especially in interrogation, because it does address topics that hit very close to home, right? Like a lot of current topics. And but I used violence because I knew he did it and I wanted to get him for it. I did not want a murderer to go free. And like if later on this comes back to bite me in the ass, I think it changes your perception of what you did retroactively. It makes violence meaningful because you can't just like punch people because you think they're a criminal. That's not how life works. That's not how police work works,
Yeah,
hopefully.
and
So,
and
yeah.
and secondarily, we're gamers too. We like playing games, and we like playing games in which we feel like our actions are kind of they matter, and we're not just clicking through a story that could be kind of delivered in a movie. We're actually playing a game in which, and that means that failure must be a component. There must be a chance for failure. Otherwise, I know I as a gamer, if I don't feel there's a chance of failure, if there's difficulty, uh, if there are game mechanics that keep me thinking and on my toes, I get kind of bored with the game. So we're trying to make a game in which, even though you're not jumping around or hitting people with swords, you're still constantly being engaged with what's happening and you care. And this means that we need to have difficulty. It's a game that is difficult and we never shied away from it.
I think one thing that might also be interesting for this question is you actually, like, if you get fired, for example, because you mess up too bad, the game actually also gives you a game over because it's the end for you. You got fired. You cannot continue with the story because you will not be included in the investigation if you got fired, and you might even get prosecuted for torturing your suspects, for example.
Well, if you really overdo it, yeah, of course.
Yeah, so it that is kind of like the end for you. So the game actually does give you a game over, and you have to restart. You can start at the beginning of
Yeah,
the last case and kind of retry.
yeah. We don't. We're not that evil as game designers. We don't force you to restart the whole game. You can rewind to any earlier point in the game wherever you want, up until then, and you can try to make different decisions this time. Uh, I don't know. I guess we have a kind of it's a similar approach to what most common sense games do. Uh, yeah, you can rewind wherever you want. Kind of like going back to an earlier save, but without forcing players to manually create earlier saves. We're making earlier saves for you. Just select one, go back if you want to change anything in what you did.
Yeah, so I think this is actually kind of a good point to end it for now because, as I said, Andre has joined us despite having a sore throat, which I'm very, very grateful for because uh, as a developer, he has such a much more deeper insight into the game than I have. Uh, Even though I will forever enjoy praising it to the heavens because I really, really uh, am super happy to work on it because yeah, I, I really believe that it's a very important game, um, which is also why I'm, yeah, telling everyone about it. And kind of like always like, going to my friends like, okay, I'm doing a stream again. You have to join. Let me tell you about this awesome game I'm working on. So yeah, uh, we do have more streams coming because we're doing this every Thursday until launch and even afterwards. So we have lots of info coming. Um, as I already said, the mission report might be teasing something for next time because, as Andre said, the game is not just interrogations, and it's also not just interrogations and sending press reports. There's even more. So if you want to find out about that, hopefully you can join us next time, next Thursday, 21 p.m. 9 p.m. CET. So yeah, again on the Steam store page and on YouTube, and you can also check out the videos from the last weeks to find out more about the dialogue system and stuff.
Yep. Cool.
Yep.
See you next week.
Yeah, see you next week. Thank you for joining us. Bye bye.
Yep. Bye bye.
Oh no, I have to actually click stop streaming. Bye bye now.